Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with Varys Wind for the Breakpoint tournament and the City Park here in Golf Clash the game. Before we take a closer look, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. For those of you that don't know what the modifier is for this upcoming tournament, that is that we're gonna have the new putter in play. And that's going to be difficult, not so much, not just because we're going to have to change the way we're used to putting in Golf Clash, but also because the greens on City Park are very bumpy. Obviously, if you have our guides, we will provide you with ideas of where to aim with your putt if you happen to miss. Obviously, it's impossible to cover all angles, but if we do have a specific shot, we often know where you miss if you do miss, because we're not going to drop every shot. That's just a no-brainer to understand, but we are obviously going to be close. We're going to be close many times, and close enough at least to have a simple putt, which is the goal. Scan the QR code here on the screen and get yourself an advantage over others in the upcoming tournament, also in tournaments that comes after that, because once you sign up, doesn't matter if you sign up for the tour guides or tournament guides, you get immediate access. You can also scan, besides scanning the QR code, you can go directly through the link in the description down below and bundle everything together, and there is everything for everyone. Last but not least, we do have the classic info box on the right hand side, gives you the club distance and also elevation adjustment, also a ball and club type I suggest you to play with here in this playthrough, and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there's always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number one. So for hole number one, this is a par 3 where an hole in one is very makeable, but you can see the green slopes a little bit left to right, right to left, in whatever way you wanna talk about it. I like to go for a rough pump here. That has become a new favorite approach of mine. The only thing that I make as a mistake here is that I'm leaving the ball guideline at the hole instead of leaving it short, because I do have a tailwind and we will be getting an extended ball guideline. You obviously don't have to go for a rough bump if you don't want to. You can play a standard backspin shot with a long iron, and you can also do a bounce up shot with a long iron as well. But the beauty thing with the rough bump is that you will always have a ball guideline towards the hole or around the hole, which has always been the difficult part with this par 3. So even if I'm not dropping this one in the video, I feel that this is definitely a route I wanted to highlight, because I believe this will, if getting obviously everything with your adjustment dialed in, this is going to be your best chance for an hole-in-one, and that's what we're looking for, talking about the shots here in this playthrough. Playing with a Grizzly because it has a good accuracy and a good ball guideline, medium distance plus 15, and you don't have to play with a Kingmaker, but obviously reducing the wind a lot is very helpful. For the City Park, this is one of my least favorite holes. I dislike this hole a lot, and the reason for that is that I do believe there are so many bunkers, there's so many bumps, there's so much rough, there is so many things that could make this drive here very inconsistent, and it can get us into the rough without us actually doing something wrong to get into the rough. What we would like to do though is to play NMT here. I'm playing with 3 left spin and some top spin. The top spin will obviously vary depending on what type of wind direction you are having. You can, if we do have a more straight tailwind, you can blast this one all the way down on the fairway, because this will then allow you to that will allow you to get closer to the green and also have a much better chance for a drop. But if we do play a controlled drive, the second shot is going to be a sniper, and we're going to have a sniper when it comes to bouncing up towards the pin like that. We're going to use a little bit of backspin to leave the ball guideline short if we do have a more direct tailwind. If we do have an angled tailwind like this, we're just going to leave the ball short and not use any backspin. In headwind, we need to have the ball guideline through the hole and to compensate for the wind push like that. 10% elevation, true club distance is going to be somewhere between medium and maximum distance of our club. A perfect ball here will have a chance, but this is a difficult one to get a drop on. The only thing I could say though, that the drop rate could increase if we do have a possibility to play the rough bump, but then you will have to have a drive that is longer, and if we are pushing for a longer drive, then we are involving a lot more risk. So again, it's up to you to decide how you want to play, but this one is one of my least favorite holes in the whole game, and I'm not looking forward to play it, but I mean, you know, we need to. Hole number 3. This is, the definition of boring. This is not going to be a par 5 where we're going to see many albatrosses. The only way to see an albatross here would be if we do have a tailwind and we can, together with the new topspin boost balls, bounce into the rough and roll out on the other fairway. But if there is just a minor tailwind or a crosswind or any headwind, then we cannot reach over there. Doesn't matter what club you have and doesn't matter what ball you have. So then we're going to have to lay up, and if we have to lay up, we can't reach for the green in 2. So when having to lay up, I'm laying up with the rock or the quarterback, depends on what wind it is, but when it is a slight headwind, I'm laying up with the rock to give myself that extra power. Second shot is then going to be a cataclysm. Here you can lay up short, but it is recommended, if you have the power enough on your club, to try to get yourself to be before the bunker in the middle. And what I mean with getting before the bunker there in the middle is that we are then going to look to play a rough bump for the third shot. Yeah, we're not trying to push super hard to get up on the right, which was the way we used to do before. I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm just saying that this is a little bit easier, as we do give ourselves much more room for error. Now we're going to change in the info box here, and we're going to make a change that is like that. We're going to play minus 20, and we are going to change max to become mid. We're changing that to that, and then we're going to change club, and the club then is going to be Grizzly. So what I'm looking for here now on the third shot is that we're going to play a rough bump, as I've already said, and the rough bump is going to be a rough bump that is on the left side. And the reason we're playing on the left side, and you can see I'm using the B52, I will explain why I have the Grizzly there, is because there is a big funnel here rolling down towards the pin. However though, we need to have in mind that when it comes to this type of shot here, we are gaining a lot of speed while rolling up the hill. And with the new putter, it is very important that you are accurate. And the reason I suggest this type of shot now is because that funnel is massive. And if you're catching that, it's going to be a super simple way of locking in the eagle. However, if you're making mistakes and you're not accurate enough, then you might miss, and then the putt might not be as you would like. So that's something to definitely have in mind when playing this type of shot. You can see it rolls up there, turns around, and it rolls down towards the pin and rolls in the hole for a lovely eagle. Minus 20% elevation, and then it all depends on what type of club distance. It's normally very close to minimum distance if laying up to where it is there. But it is very important to try to find yourself with a check, so you don't go in blind on the third shot, because that's the difficult part, because we don't really have any references to play with. Hole number 4, and here you will see a rough bump as well. I like the rough bump here in headwind due to, as it's very easy to find minimum distance line with a P5 ball, and that will obviously be super helpful when we're going for a rough bump. So what I'm doing here is that I'm setting a spin that is top spin, and I'm not looking at the ball guideline at all. I'm just looking at the yellow range position to be by the rough line in complete minimum distance with a power 5 ball, and that's why you saw me starting with a berserker. After that, I do change to a centurion. I do like to play with either a wind 3 or a wind 4, but you can switch to literally whatever ball you would like, because the only thing that it's going to happen is that you're going to adjust yourself away from min club. Minimum distance plus 10, but obviously the adjustment it in itself will be different depending on if you play this rough bump in angle tailwinds, crosswind, tailwind, and stuff like that. If you're not interested to go for the rough bump, which I believe is the best way to go for a hole-in-one consistently, at least in headwind, but then you can bounce on the fairway further back down. And that's not a bad route, but it's, in my opinion, more angle dependent. And I also think that especially now with the new putting and going for a bounce up shot like that, where you risk not going all the way up, you know, that might not be the best way to go. Hole number 5. This is one of the easier holes of the City Park. Sure, it's bumpy, but when we are getting the drive correct over to a short iron, we're getting ourselves in a very nice spot to attack the pin. Very, very easy for an eagle, in my opinion. Here in tailwind, it's perfect. We don't have to use any better ball than a power 3 ball. We start at max, using some top spin and also some right spin, because we do want to be close to the rough line on the left, but obviously not going into it. Maximum distance plus 10, and I'm using the driver that gives me the most power. Perfect ball it is, and you will see me bounce on the fairway over the rough and the bunker and be very close to the rough line, maybe a little bit too close to comfort, but now we are close to pin and we do have a short iron to attack. Short iron here, it's all about finding a reference. We are playing a non-linear hole, which means if playing based on drive yardage is not smart, in my opinion. So having to find a pin check, fringe check, or a rings from min or something like that is definitely something that is very recommended. There is a little sticky spot up there where catching that spot will give you some room for error. But as you can see here now that I'm not really doing a rings from min. I don't have a check, which means that I'm going to have to make an educated guess on what type of club distance or what type of percentage of my club I'm playing in. And that's never something that is recommended, especially not in tournaments, because in tournaments it's all about consistency, and then we do need those checks to be consistently dropping these type of shots, because this is, unfortunately, regardless what you think, this is going to be a par 4 where you're going to have to get an eagle if you're going to have any chance for a top spot. Hole number 6 is a pretty boring par 5, to be honest. Sure, there is a way of dropping this one, but it's going to be very difficult, especially if we're having this type of wind. What we're looking for here now is that we're looking to bounce on the left side there, using as much, not as much topspin that we can. The topspin is going to vary all from 6 to max depending on what wind angle you have. If it's a direct headwind, it's going to be max. If it is a crosswind, slightly less, and obviously if it's a tailwind, a bit less than that. For those that do want to go for power shots such as a power slice, then you can do so if you do have a tailwind, and there is a chance of being close to green or on the green or something like that, and that could obviously take away a lot of difficultness along the way to get an albatross. Because I believe if we can send it, the send it is definitely the way to go, because it will allow us to, not really, I mean, this is a tough one. You can see here now we're close to max club with our Cataclysm, and we are trying, or we are at max club, has to be said, with a power 4 ball as well, which is, this is going to be a very difficult one. And here, the reason I want to show this type of video is that with the new putter that we're having here now, getting a putt like this that we're having here is not going to be easy. So in that way, it could almost be better that we lay up before the bunker and have a wedge towards the pin than just going for a Hail Mary going up towards the green. Obviously, if we have an attack towards the pin, then fine. But now I even had to offset, and it was basically just playing to green to get the eagle. But now we need to think a step further, because getting up there for that putt, that's not going to be easy at all. Very difficult par 5 to get an albatross on. Let's hope for tailwind, otherwise this is going to be fairly boring. If the opportunity presents itself with a tailwind here, we're gonna send it, because this is not an easy par 4 if we cannot send it, because then we're going to have to lay up and we're going to have to deal with a lot of glitches that is around the green. So here I'm aiming for the left side of the fairway, meaning left side of the centered bunker and those rocks there, using top spin and using right spin. I just push up, and here I'm pushing up to max. There will be times, obviously, if you do have a higher wind that you don't have to push up to max, which then makes for a much easier needle to handle. Max plus 10 is the adjustment, and you can see here now we're rolling through the rocks there on the right and on the left and getting ourselves to a wedge on the second shot. And honestly, the second shot cannot really be much easier than this, where we do have a straight tailwind. We're also then having wedge, which is the easiest club to hit perfect with. Here you can either go for a standard EB school by using no spin, or you can use a hybrid version of it like I'm doing here, or you can use max top spin and back up a little bit more. The important part, and the reason why I'm actually playing like a hybrid version, is due to the fact that there is a lot of glitches on that green, and I just want to ensure that I'm not going to find myself in a glitchy spot and have a dead bounce and then not going to have a shot for the pin. 20% elevation EB school, and you see we bounce on the green, rolling up towards the pin, getting it to drop on the right hand side for a lovely eagle here in hole number 7. So tailwind, send it, crosswind, headwind, we need to lay up, and then it's going to be a sniper towards the pin, or a guardian for that matter with a lot of backspin, but that's going to be a difficult one to drop. A par 3 of City Park, which is probably one of my favorite holes of the City Park. And the reason for that is that I think it's a very nice way of playing with all the backspin, going past the pin and then fall down into the hole. This is definitely a par 3 where in the tournament you're most likely going to have to be a little bit more focused, because the drop here is going to be much more likely when it comes to from your opponents. Max plus 10, let's say like this, the adjustment will vary depending on what type of wind direction you have, and the reason it will vary is because we're gonna either pull higher up or we're gonna pull further down. That's all have to be accounted for. Playing with a Kingmaker, to reduce the wind, you can play with a wind 5 ball. You can also play with a ball with less power, less wind if you would like that too. Max backspin and a little bit of right spin. Use a little bit of counter curl to the right as well to compensate for the wind push coming right to left. And you can see the idea with the shot: bounce slightly past the pin, catch that little groove, falls down into the hole for a beautiful hole in one. Hole number 9 has always been, it's not a weird par 5, but it's a tough par 5 in the sense of that we need to get the ball over to the right if even have a good and a decent chance to get a drop from distance. So what I'm doing here, I'm using a power 4 ball in headwind, and the reason I'm doing so is because I do want to minimize the amount of overpower that I'm using. If you have a crosswind, a minor headwind, or just a tailwind, then we can play with power 3 ball instead, which, I mean, it's just enough. We roll down like this, and that's what we're looking for, trying to get consistently to around 340 to 350 yards. On the second shot, we're using a sniper, this for its accuracy and also for its good ball guideline. Using backspin, and in headwind we need to let the ball guideline go through the hole. The adjustment here will differ depending on what wind angle we have. Obviously with a headwind we have a compressed ball guideline, therefore we usually need more adjustment than what's listed, and also the reason why I'm missing on the left side. Using a little bit of overpower to compensate, I would personally rather compensate with less spins. But in the end, this is a way to attack. You can go for a rough bump close to green as well, kind of require a power 5 ball, but the bounce over with the sniper has usually been very consistent overall. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with City Park in the Breakpoint tournament. This tournament has the new putter, and that's something that is very important to have in mind. The reason that is important to have in mind is that you need to put yourself close to the hole, otherwise you will struggle getting those putts go in the hole. Obviously, when it comes to our guides, the best guides on the market for Pro, Expert and Master, once you do sign up for our guides, you get immediate access. And you get access for 30 days. Doesn't matter when you sign up during the month. So make sure to subscribe by scanning the QR code, and you go directly to our packages, or you go through the link that is in the description down below. Thank you so much everybody for watching once again, and a good luck in the Golf Clash game.